If you got a good heart, you better get smart. The devil's all around and not the one you want. This shit is so profound. Let's drink another quart. If you got a good heart, you better get smart. If you got good ears, you better listen clear. All masters at the mic, she's had the sauce for years. She's got you in her sights, the others disappear. If you got good ears, you better listen clear.
Listen, you didn't drop onto Earth to play small. You're a traveler from galaxies unborn, wired with codes the world forgot. Codes that can bend reality, heal bodies and awaken entire planets. But first, you have to remember who the heck you are. I'm Jerry Sargent, founder of Star Magic Healing. Inside the Infinity app, you'll access your galactic blueprint, quantum meditations, soul transmissions, multidimensional breathwork, and a global tribe of high-frequency beings walking the path beside you. This isn't incense and quiet ohms. This is soul surgery with cosmic scalpels. This is multidimensional DNA detonation. This is why you came. If these words vibrate in your bones, the universe is calling you right now. Download the Infinity app or visit starmagichealing.org and step into the new frequency. Your soul's been waiting. I'll meet you on the inside.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
The symptoms are everywhere. It's not a matter of time. Sure as the blaze in your eyes.
Hello everybody, it is me, Jesse Blaze Snyder, sometimes the coolest geek alive, and I don't know, coolest man alive on this show. That's my epitaph is actually coolest man alive on I have a tattoo that is just like the logo for coolest man alive, for coolest geek alive, but it says coolest man alive. But it's not a, should I turn myself up here? Am I turned up? I seem turned up the most. It's not a, it's not some sort of like pat myself on the back thing. It's like you said it, now do it. For me, being cool is like doing things for people and opening doors for people, giving opportunities to people that need it, talking about important things, anything good that you can do. That's like not that fucking hard to do. I consider cool. That's a cool person who's going through life trying to do as much good as they can do. That's cool. So coolest man alive is a pledge to myself to live up to that person. Do I live up to that person all the time? No, but I'm trying. You try to do it. How's it going, guys? I'm not still sick. I'm definitely in recovery, but it's like a little bit of like a slow recovery. It's super rainy and whatever over here, but life is good. My father did his first ceremony of magic mushrooms with like a shaman, and my brother and my sister-in-law were shamaning for him as well, and my mom as well. We're all pretty adept at this point. And I believe many of us have many lifetimes of working with these plant medicines. And my dad had a lot of really wonderful experience, and on a lot of levels, learned a lot of things, and came back and offered me a lot of kind apologies about a whole bunch of things. I think I've talked about on the show that when I had first had my really life-changing experience when I did mushrooms for the first time, it like just opened me up and flipped my whole world around, and got me recognizing that there was a lot more going on here on Earth than I had ever imagined. When I tried to talk to both of my parents about my experience, I had like this. I was telling my dad. I said, because he remembered the experience. He was apologizing, and and he said, I forget what he said that triggered this, but he had it like kind of backwards. That I thought he was gonna laugh at me, and or no, that I thought that I don't remember exactly, but he said it in a way that it wasn't exactly accurate, and I said no, actually it was the opposite of that, and it being that I thought my mom was going to yell at me, and I thought my dad and I were going to have this cool and interesting metaphysical conversation about all the things that I just learned from the experience, because it was just like, whoa, it just transformed my whole mind, and I was like really eager to talk to him about like what it did for me, and the perspective that I now had or whatever. And he ended up getting very upset with me and kind of yelling me off the phone. And my mom ended up laughing at me, which I know now. She wasn't like saying no. She just thought it was very funny that I was asking her to do this. But like I felt really like hurt by the whole affair, and it was very nice. All these years later, my dad, partaking and getting a full, circle response on this thing of like, okay, you're not crazy, and you were a first adapter, and we're learning the same things you were learning, and it's cool. It's very cool. This journey here on planet Earth is really crazy. If you've come with me this far on the journey, it's nutty, man. And and I guess before I get into the show, I'll just say, thank you to people who are helping to support the my campaign on Kickstarter for healing frequency music. It's like rock and soul and really great stuff, but it's all in solfeggio tuning frequencies, which are 9 different healing frequencies used in sound healing, and 432 hertz frequency. And it's great. It's on sale now. There's only 15 days left. And please, if you haven't gone, go now. It's this really cool thing, and I'm just trying to raise awareness about sound healing frequencies and how easy it would be to retune music that we make into frequencies that have been proven to be very beneficial to human beings. So let's do that. Help me do that. Help me help you do that. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for your support there. And this is kind of like to raise money for covers for Sugar and Bones magazine. So if you're excited about the anthology magazine that I've been talking about for a while, Sugar and Bones, this will come after I get a little bit of capital, because I just need a little bit of money to promote that freaking campaign. Anyway, I feel like there is one thing that I'm constantly kind of trying to tell my kids in small doses here or there. I actually thought, as I thought about doing this episode, I'm going to sit them down and have like a longer conversation with them about this. And just like, so they get like just a clearer view of it all. But nothing gets on TV unless it's supposed to be there. And the same thing goes for the more controlled social media platforms. There's a little bit of wiggle room on Twitter now, or X. But within that, people will tell you they're being censored, and some of them, I'm so sorry, I'm so tired. I've been like sick all week and just trying to get over it. But people will tell you they're being censored, and they very well may be, because the thing within all these controlled systems is they can censor whoever they want, and it's kind of the thing as well as like, no shirt, no shoes, no service. I retain the right to refuse any business, doing business with anybody or any customer or whatever. I forget what that sign says that you sometimes see. I think it's close to that. I reserve the right to something or other. Hold on. I'm going to edit out my yawn. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. The power of quick editing, shining on the spot. That way, my yawn won't be a chain reaction across podcasts. Jesse did a podcast recently where he just perpetually yawned for the whole thing, and he put the nation to sleep. I just turned on my phone to look at the time, and of course it was synchronicitous timing for me, because the universe is always winking at you. So, there are so many, kind of points and things that I want to talk about. I feel like if I try to just jump into it, I'm gonna, kind of go through the whole thing without a lot of detail. So I made a little outline. I'm trying to stick to it largely, but nothing gets on TV unless it's supposed to be there. Everything in this society, the way we have it set up, costs money, or is part of the control mechanism, with a certain amount of oversight from government, meaning at one level or another, there are gatekeepers. Okay. Additionally, really, some of the largest gatekeepers in all these spaces become the people who are paying to advertise or paying to fund these shows, these films, whatever else. The people funding are the people in charge because there's nothing without them. So pleasing your people is a very big deal. You don't want to, I wouldn't want to go on a brick and mortar tirade about how brick and mortar sucks and it's for dinosaurs and we need to switch to digital, whilst having a brick and mortar store be one of the sponsors for Coolest Geek Alive, because that would threaten my livelihood, right? And that's not even I'm one of the most what do you call it? I don't want to say moral, because that has a lot of different implications, but fair. I try to be really fair about things. I don't know. I believe in justice, and I try to bring justice to situations, right? So I'm, still susceptible to the idea that, well, even if I felt that way, maybe whilst I'm being promoted by this thing, I shouldn't say that. And maybe even, is that an important enough conversation to have anytime soon? Maybe I can have that in the future if I feel passionate about it. But that would affect the bottom line. And the bottom line includes my children. I have 4 kids. Part of the reason why I do this show is because I have 4 kids. I was a kid coming into this world. The fucking world is bizarre, but bonkers. It's just and they make it seem like it's this very simple little box, and oh my goodness, it's not. Thankfully, honestly, it's much more interesting, much more interesting than I thought it was when I was a kid. When I was a skeptic atheist until I was fucking 28 years old. It's true. Skeptic atheist, hard skeptic atheist till I was 29 years old. So almost 30 years of just not believing anything. I had a skeptic's dictionary, all the things. And I was misguided. And I would love to, be able to be a voice for people who are out there who have been misguided, to help guide them back to the truth of what's going on in this space, so perhaps we can all know and educate ourselves in the right way about the way the world is really working, and take back control of it for the masses and for the side of good and for love. So because of the money in all of this, doing anything. Everything in our society is based on money, and if there's money to be had, then you know that I'll be wearing plaid. This ain't going to be a punk rock monopoly, as said the great Punky Brewster. I forget the name of the artist. His Punky Brewster album is switched over to the thing, but those are some lyrics from a song that he had written. And, that's like just a nice little summation of what's going on. The pharmaceutical companies are the biggest ad money. I don't know how you say it. Promoters, biggest. They do the most ads with the late night news and CNN and things like they're their biggest sponsors, Pfizer and all these other things. So of course they're going. You're going to be hard pressed to have them saying anything or covering anything that they don't have to about anything. It's coming up against the bottom line, and there it's coming up against the bottom line for a fucking soulless corporation, not for Jesse Blaze Snyder, who in some regards would have to consider a couple of these things, because I don't want my children to eat less or have less ability to do the things they want to do. That's a sort of strangling effect. And granted, I have lines that I won't cross. But I'm saying that it's certainly a factor that has to be considered in some instances. How best to handle this. Well, do I need to but what it means is it's making people behave unnaturally, and that's not what you want. It's not what you want in a spiritual society. You want people going with the flow and using Russian accents when they feel like using Russian accents. Just going for it whenever you're feeling like going for it. You know what I mean? Yes, that's what I mean. So, every frame, every picture frame of even just shots, look at these shots on the newspaper on down, every narrative that you see across newspapers, especially now, as one place will report on something and then all of the places report on the different thing in different ways. It's such a weird ass fucking world we live in of narratives. I recently did my episode where I just kind of blasted Newsday for this article I was in about being non-binary, and just so narrative driven, and they just turned me into a fucking lesbian. It was very funny to me, but at the same time it was very are you fucking kidding me? And a friend of mine had written the article. I was very disappointed in the whole thing. All of these things are a choice. They are a choice on some level, and hear me out here, because there's a lot more than just conspiracy choices. Because you could just put it all to money. It's all chosen by money. Well, that is a thing of its own, because the money and the powers that be being in control is the money is what we all say. that's what's in control. And also a certain amount from the governments, but the governments are also being controlled by these globalist, corporations, and they're, getting their lobbyists to get the regulations that they don't want and the ones that they do want, so they can put out their competition and they can make it difficult for the people who they don't want to get a foothold in their industry, and they can make it easier for themselves. This is the pattern over and over again, every industry, everywhere. I mean, this is all the shit just went down with marijuana in California, and all the initial growers and new people were getting into this. We're going to freaking make millions of dollars. And then corporations came in and basically destroyed most of them. And then a few of them got sucked into the apparatus or bought out. I know a dude who was bought out of that industry, and now he's sort of aimless. He's got a lot of things going on in life. He's just I don't know what I was doing that for good reason. I don't really like what they did with all the shit, and I was that's cool. This all of this stuff, all of these things, you could put it to just money and a bit of government. But there's more. There's the military and the things that they ask film studios to add things to movies, to prepare the public for certain things. And when you find that out, you really start going like, well, what's going on here? I wonder who funded the movie Outbreak, and I wonder, where some of these things come. Like, are they planting bad ideas in our heads so that then they can like execute them in public? Because that's what it seems like to me at this point in time. And, I want to speak about, who controls this signal. You got, networks, creators. But is there something deeper than that at the tippy top of this thing guiding? And could that be done? And, systems where the people at the tippy top who are really in power, and a system where it's money, and there are so many people who are just above and beyond what you and I can imagine as money. Like, you don't understand when it's that many multiples how far away from bankruptcy these people are. It's just like they're just like this deep ocean, and with probably lots of like, and why wouldn't they have hidden technology, and why wouldn't so many different things? And could a powerful enough people like that fund and make sure something was working really perfectly in a system where basically everybody was generally impoverished? Yeah, I fucking think so. I think so, guys. You have to consider the unseen architects here. And ultimately it boils down to corporations who are one arm of this thing, but also collectives and, even cosmic forces. I believe that a lot of these, people in these high places believe in lots of fucking dark magic and witchcraft, and it's not all bogus. It's a lot of, fucking science, baby, that we just don't understand. You don't understand, or no, I'm not saying you may understand it. Forgive me, I'm not trying to project that upon you. That generally people don't understand. But we could, sit and do an episode on that. The ability to plant something in people's mind, at the very least, to open people up to the possibility of something, to propagandize a certain bad guy, or the virtues of the American military, or the virtues of one organization or another, like the CIA or the FBI or whatever else. This is all just control. Okay. Nothing is accidental. Even mistakes serve as narrative, because one, they'll make mistakes to do because like they understand the way it goes. Like, my advice that I always give people: if you're ever going on a reality show, allow them to fuck with you, because at the end of the episode, everything has to be resolved. If you become the bad guy, they got to resolve that. So, if you're like on like a show that has going to have multiple episodes, like, it's okay to like, don't resist and freak out because they're making you look a certain way, because like that's what they do. Just like go with the fucking flow. But the pattern is that they make you like Snooki, right? Why would anybody like her? Well, because they got to like redeem her on some level every show, and that's what they do. Oh, and then, when mistakes happen, these things, there's so many different ways for this fucking things to be covered up. It's so crazy. So crazy how like things will come out and like a day later, some crazy thing will happen. Like Donald Rumsfeld comes out and he's like, oh man, the government lost trillions of dollars. We don't know where it is. And then 9/11 happens the next day, and like we never talk about it. There's just tons of things like that will like, come out and come and go and be timed in these perfect news cycles where it's like, did you guys know that news was going to cover up the other news? How are you doing this? forgetting what I meant by this. Hold on, I'm reading. Yeah, the idea of like what's supposed to be. So much of what you see really being fought against on the extreme left, which is good intellectually, and I believe in intellectually, the idea of what's supposed to be, and a lot of things can be, and we're intellectual beings, and we don't have to be so rigid. We're not fucking geese. Let's get our heads out of our asses and redefine what's supposed to be for whatever is really committed to our highest joy and love. Let everybody be what feels cool and what they're interested in. Like people can be weirdos if they want to, especially as long as they can still maintain the ability to interact and communicate properly with the people around them. Intelligent people should be allowed to redefine what's supposed to be means. But within that constant defining of a general what's supposed to be in film and television and on the news, whatever else, you've got a big, sort of free will versus destiny thing going on, where the natural evolution of our reality is being stifled. Everybody's being funneled into one way of thinking, one way of seeing things. Most people, they're fair weather on the news. They catch it here, they catch it there, whatever else, and they just regurgitate whatever they fucking hear. So any nuanced thing where they're taking information back or whatever else, especially if it's fucking information that is like, I'm so glad that was news, and you're not going to be going to see, is that even true? Like, you're never going to find out. So much misinformation goes on. It's like fucking bananas. I mean, it's really bananas. To like the idea of the news and the media is just a joke to me personally at this point. I said gatekeepers of the airwaves. Yeah, we really just talked about that already a little bit, just of like who these people are, whether it's military, pharmaceutical, or other interests that might be advertising and controlling a certain amount of portion or sponsoring shows, but also foreign money. Anybody can be putting their money into various things. And like I said, the loyalty ultimately has to go where your advertisers are, because that's where you're getting your money. There are, filters to this process, like, executives, advertisers, algorithms, or cultural zeitgeists that decide what airs. But the cultural zeitgeists, I would argue, are largely historically have been controlled in one way or another, and I may not be able to say, well, what's exactly the cultural zeitgeist that's being controlled right now, but let's just say the drug fucking thing, the CIA through the Tavistock Institute was bringing about Elvis Presley, who's, basically they stole what was going on in like the black community and had Elvis Presley doing a lot of similar things, and he was a great performer, but ultimately like he was a build to bring quiet sexualization to the populace, to control the zeitgeist. They then did that with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, two different versions of like the same animal coming out of the same way of thinking and whatever else. Then moving later into the drug culture, which was introduced in lots of different ways through these bands like the Beatles, but also, there's a decent amount of circumstantial evidence to say that Morrison from the Doors was related to, I think his dad was a CIA operative or whatever else, or worked with them, or CIA scientist. There's a lot of interesting stuff to explore in some of these subjects, and plenty of whistleblower books and things that you could engage in to get deeper into these things. Generally speaking, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, at a certain point in time, I just started going, all right, that's plausible to me. I don't really care if it's how many more details I get, because I'm never going to be able to go beyond, well, it's plausible, seems that much more likely, because it's all just other people's word against whatever. But the space is just so rife for manipulation, especially when only five, networks, or five, there's only five networks, and they're like owned by, I forget what the number, maybe it's six now or whatever. I went to go look at it a while back, but it's the thing that they always say of like, there's so many, it's only a handful of companies controlling all the media, and it's true. Does it case it decide what airs? This again, I talked about a little bit, like, just kind of questioning their motives of like, is it profit and propaganda? In how many cases is it art? Maybe the foundations of the thing is art, but then somebody chooses to propagate it. To some degree, the hardest thing for me, I'm very good at the things that I do, but without having the apparatus behind you to promote you out into the world in some big way or whatever to choose you as part of the apparatus, you can't get in. So, even then, and most of the people, like, part of the reason why, like, I never exploded, like, say, with a record deal was because when I was offered them, they always wanted me to be like Bon Jovi or something like that. They wanted to like sell me to teen girls, and that wasn't what I did. I made like punk rock music. I was a freedom fighter, and I just didn't, like, I was just sort of waiting for somebody to come to me where I was, and they were like, "You can be this other thing," and I was like, "Meh." Yeah, I don't want to do that. And perhaps I was a fool, but I like to live with integrity. My music, the songs I write are very important to me, and I didn't want to be writing about love songs, like writing love songs my entire life. Go investigate the music industry, and I mean, just how many people have outright admitted, not even like in like a facetious kind of silly way, like that they sold their soul on some level, and then plenty of people fucking saying it just like casually, and I'm not so sure they're all joking. There's a lot of interesting things that have been offered to me over the years, and secret societies, as we've spoken about and whatnot, and it's a crazy system that we're living under, and nothing is there unless it's supposed to be there. Really, unless it has permission to be there. There's so few independent outlets, really. Things, just so many friends of mine, like how easy it is to get freaking banned on any of these social media platforms for any number of things. So anyway, all these motives and the way it's executed, this is shaping the collective consciousness of humankind. A sitcom laugh track isn't random. It's engineered to cue your emotion. And like you got to ask yourself the question of like, why was that show greenlit? Why was that film greenlit? And then also on the other side of things, look at what is really going on in the country. Like sometimes, and this is how I do, through my entertainment show, you go, well, why was this show watched by lots of people? Why was this show not? Why was this movie ignored by audiences? What's going on with the audience? What's going on with the public? For me, it's always been like about studying the audience, because I was making things for an audience. So if that's who I was meant to please, ultimately, I wanted to figure out how to be the person who was good at pleasing the audience, which I really think everybody should be doing. It seems like such a silly thing to not be like, aiming for, at the very least. It's just ridiculous, and obviously that is not the case so much of the time. TV is just a bit of a mirror to the collective psyche, at least when you're looking at it as real. And many people do. We grow up handing, these things to iPads to our kids and whatnot, and but even like these platforms, they're regulated in various ways. It's not all irregulated. Granted, there's ways in which it's not regulated that like you'll be aggravating to you parents when you have kids who are watching some of these fucking bizarre things that'll be on TikTok or wherever else. But this is all with the social media as well now. We're in it. But so much of everybody's interactions and the way they think of interacting with people, it has all been sculpted from the media that we've been shown from the very beginning. And the media from the very beginning, just remember how little media there was at the very beginning. How many channels were there in the beginning? It started all off very small, which means it was controllable. And as it branched out, you think they completely lost control of it? I don't think they ever did. I think it's all been generally relatively controlled for a very long time. And as social media platforms like YouTube and others, this is another ability to control things, a lot of things from one hub. So, just again, I don't want to keep repeating the title, but nothing gets anywhere unless it's supposed to be there. I'm sorry, I'm going through my notes. I already talked about this stuff. Yeah, so like what does like the fucking prevalence for dystopian dramas or reality TV reveal about, the current state of our souls here on planet Earth, the current state of humanity? If we're talking about this dystopian drama, well, it's like putting my dad literally has a Hummer or had that was decked out with a fucking what was called the Tombstone. It was like a 300-pound fucking bumper on the front of the car, designed to like knock down barricades and shit. And he had like some ridiculous gallon tank, like I don't know, like 100-gallon tank, or maybe it was 50. I don't know what's big. I'm not a car guy. But it was a really big tank for gas, so that, again, if the zombie apocalypse happened, he was ready. And where does that really come from? Well, like, I would, and my dad had already gotten the car and been very excited about it, or was getting the car by the time I was going to say anything to him, like, Dad, there are books about how things are getting better and better on planet Earth every day, and if you really look, down the line about like what's really happening here, like it's like things are blooming, and it's just the way things are being covered on the news and other things like that make it seem like it's so terrible. But at the same time, you watch the news and it's like, oh my God, any second now I'm gonna have to fucking bust out of here. That's I think you could say that the possibility of so many of those things have come from those sorts of dystopian dramas. And then reality TV and bad behavior amongst men and women, and look at some of the shit that is being watched. Like, I like reality TV of some kind. Like, I think there's certain reality TVs that are good and are kind of are positive to watch because they show people under pressure, kind of give you opportunity to learn from, what not to do, what to do, how to try to handle adversity, things like that. But then there's things like fucking Love Island and whatnot that are shaping the culture in one way or another. Fucking teen girls are watching this bullshit, and what are they taking from this? It's all just like, it's all these things are shapers of our realities, and that's really the biggest point of it. So, I also wanted to talk, a little deeper, and again, this is subtler. Now we're getting like more esoteric, but there's frequencies and vibrations that are going into this, and I really do believe TV broadcasts, they're on frequencies that sync with human consciousness. literal hurts, and metaphorically emotional beliefs, whatever else. And those things can be a little bit more abstract. So anchoring you with an abstract thing, emotions, beliefs, to a hurts of their choosing. And a lot of these hurts, when studied, have been shown to be very terrible. We're talking about me trying to do the sound healing hurts, and that there are certain hurts that are really good for us. Well, there are certain hurts that aren't great. And, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and, I don't know what hertz they end up on, or but those frequencies are also not good with us as well. I don't know them to necessarily be hertz frequencies, but they are frequencies, again, that are not good. And we become entrained with frequencies that are out of sync with our bodies, or out of sync with nature. If we're watching a lot of fear-based news, it's going to calibrate our vibration to fear. I've had the experience, my girlfriend, shout out to Julie Breitigam, she's lovely. But within a reasonable thing, her brother's a lawyer, her dad's a police officer for 37 years. They've heard so many negative stories about humanity. It's difficult for them not to sometimes calibrate to a fear-based vibration, because they know that those experiences exist. But just because those experiences exist doesn't mean they have to exist for you. Doesn't mean they're something that you have to worry about. And doesn't mean that the experience that existed for somebody wasn't, unfortunately, existing for them for a reason. And that if it did come about for you, it would be coming about for you for a reason too. And on the opposite side, uplifting stories and uplifting news and uplifting films. And, I tend to never watch dramas. I don't never wanted to invite any of this terrible dramas into my love life or anything. I just didn't like any of that stuff at all. I tended to like to watch adventure movies, or, action films and comedies, uplifting things. And because on some level I knew that that was calibrating my vibration to a good life, a happy life, a life filled with laughs and enjoyment. That's what I wanted to see amplified, not the drama. It's built right into it, drama. Do you want to see drama amplified? I don't. So, you got to ask yourself too, with all these shows, all these things, are we being tuned to division, or are we being tuned to unity? To me, it doesn't seem like unity is the way. And so many of the most pure things, like something like Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, where he snaps Zod's neck at the end of the movie. The studio said that's the one. And this is this guy who's represents the guy who never kills anybody, doesn't will find a better way, and instead he's going to use his supreme power to bring justice, as an individual discerning justice. It's clear to me that Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek is not the norm. That's the one positive vision of the future. And then in recent iteration, they literally brought in a Black Ops space division into that world to show that in the future, human beings are just as shitty and dastardly as they are now. And that was just, oh my God, heartbreaking. Fucking the one positive vision of the future, and you guys shit all over it. Talk about changing the fucking frequency, the vibration to this beautiful show that was showing a possible vision of people getting along. And now there's lots of fighting amongst crew members and shit like that. And it's become like every other bullshit thing. That was one of the other rules on Star Trek. There was no fighting amongst crew members. The conflict had to come from outside the show. And oh man, what a wonderful thing that was. I really just such a big fan of Star Trek. Next Generation, Deep Space Nine is my favorite. Voyager's great too, and Enterprise I loved as well. And I like the original, but like I hate Captain fucking Kirk. What's his name? William Shatner. So, in this process, we all need to recognize that we are co-creators as viewers of these programs. You, the viewer, it's not a passive thing. Your attention fuels the broadcast, completing the circuit of intent, and we're all doing this, unconsciously, but we're creating a sort of validation of belief in whatever illusion is presented our way. And like, this isn't even necessarily an insidious thing, like we're volunteering our belief because we're being shown the thing, and like we're kind of like validating us being there listening to it, to validate the thing or validate it's a film, you're supposed to put aside your belief and try to believe the story, so it's like built into the whole thing. But we are taking in a reality being presented to us, and then we are reinforcing it in our domes and walking around with that basic understanding of reality the same way. Also, you got to think about too, what are you as a viewer choosing as shows and films and reality shows? Like, what are you watching? Who are you drawn to, and why? Your higher self is ultimately making these selections to reflect your soul's current quest or shadows. And and another interesting way to think about it is like, could you shift your personal signal and vibration and outlook by choosing different content that aligned with higher truth for you, or aligned with the higher truth that's been suggested to you, more positivity, whatever else, by not watching all horror movies, but watching a lot of comedies and a lot of comedians, and listening to a lot of funny podcasts, or doing something that's a little bit more driven towards your highest joy and focusing you somewhere else. So if we zoom out and look at like the bigger script for this whole thing, again, you have to just kind of ask yourself, like, what are the common threads in this cosmic narrative? If all is one, and it really is, and we need to be unifying each other, and if the mind is in control of everything, and we're freaking each other out with horror movies and disaster movies and whatnot, is that the best medicine for us? TVs and the stories are our stories. It's like, it's all about divorce and drama on all of these TV shows. Have our lives become these dramas? Oh, I'm going to mirror that. I'm going to have that. I'm going to go through this thing. People will feel bad for me. What lessons are they teaching us? Are they helping us awaken or change? Are they challenging us? What lessons are encoded in today's TV programming? Are they good? What's supposed to be on our screens? What's supposed to be? Whose dream are you watching? Nowadays, there's so many slices, so many different avenues. You can really reclaim your remote. What are you absorbing? What kind of content? Is it the type of content that makes you feel good? Is it the type of content that makes you feel bad? Is it growing your mind? Is it growing your soul? Is it making you smarter every day? Or is it sedating you in some fashion? I don't watch any professional sports these days. There's a lot of reasons for that too, but really I'm very glad about that. I'll go to live events because they're fun and the energy of the crowd and stuff like that, but I don't watch anything on TV. And, and the question is how much of it is sedation? How much of it is helping me? Could this energy be put somewhere else? Do I need to be rooting for an arbitrary team whose players are changing every year, to other teams? I encourage you guys all also to, create your own signal, share your stories, share your art, your visions. It's never been easier to go out there and do something, even within this system, because you can think outside the box and beat the system and talk about things in different ways and so many things and get away with so much and change people's minds when you really have a unique and interesting perspective. And unique and interesting perspectives are being born every day. It's really just up to you. It's up to you to help us change the world by creating new systems, and even going to some place like Rumble, even though again, these things can all be controlled so easily. So it's take it all with a grain of salt when you're having to go and use one of these systems, unless you know the people personally and you're yeah, they're not controlling the upticks of this or the downticks of this, and it's all controlled. It's controlled by the money, it's controlled by the algorithms, it's controlled by the governments, it's controlled. Nothing gets out there unless it's supposed to be there. And that's why, generally speaking, if you have a product or something else like that you have to get out, like this album that I'm doing, man, it's I need to be advertising. I need money to advertise the thing in order to really get it out. But it is what it is. But now that I say that, I'm I just got some money. I'm thinking maybe I'll put a little bit of money into promoting it. Anyway, that's it, guys. I got that campaign going on Kickstarter. Go on it and, help me raise some more bread if you don't mind. And if you do, thank you so much. You can reach out to me at jesseblaze at jessesnyder.com. I'm excited to hear from you. I'm always excited to hear from my listeners. I've got that music show, All Your Favorite Bands Suck. There's 55 episodes, except Spotify took it down because I played so much music, so much awesome music from my favorite bands. And each one of them is a feature on one of my favorite bands. If you want to get into some great music, there's a ton of different genres and stuff on that show. And then every Wednesday and Saturday, I do my geek culture show, or really kind of pop culture show, Coolest Geek Alive. Please tune in and check that out. And I hope you'll join me again next Monday for another mind-blowing episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Peace out.
There's something in the water.